Hello, good afternoon and welcome to New Forest Morphs. It's 3 videos this week because we've got so much going on at the moment. I've got my wonderful family coming to celebrate my 60th birthday. We've been having a wonderful day and the snakes are also carry on giving, and today we've got another clutch, and I think it's clutch number 12 that's come, and it's the DG Pied project. We've got Fire, Enchi and Pastel going into it, and this is the sire. I'm going to just show you the daddy, and we've got my new camera lady, Linnea. She's going to be doing all of the photography with the help of Daddy. So thank you, Linnea, for coming in and helping me. And we've got little Finn who's going to ask some questions, I'm sure. What's your first question, Finn?
I think that one looks quite more of a stormtrooper because it has black and white.
It does look like a stormtrooper because it's a pastel desert ghost. And when you put pastel into desert ghost, it really pops and it gets whiter. So that's a very good observation, Finn. Now here he is, so we can have a look at him. He is the brother of our DG Pied boy who's in shed right now, and he was supposed to be the original boy. When I bought the DG Pied, it was sold to me as a girl, and when we sexed it, it was a boy. So I've ended up with 2 boys. But they're both wonderful animals, and I'd like to thank Ben, who basically produced these animals for us. We've had them for about 18 months now, and they're now starting to produce some beautiful clutches. I managed to source 2 DG Pied girls. One's a leopard DG Pied double het, and the other one is straightforward DG Pied double het. So we'll put the boy back. I'll show you the other 2 girls that are in the project, because we're hoping to get some leopard DG Pieds later in the year, and they're actually over here. So let me just put this boy back. And his name is Hiroshi. So well done, Hiroshi. So we're going to get Pastel into our desert ghosts, and we're going to get Fire and Enchi as well. Now this one over here, if I can just push you back, Finn. Let me just push you back over here. This one here is Koji. Now she's the one that's going to give us a clutch later in the season, hopefully. She was 35mm 4 weeks ago. And if you look at the size of her, she's looking big. And she is a leopard double het DG Pied. So, do you know what het means? Because I haven't explained to you what het means yet, have I? And why we call them hets. So you have various projects. Some genetics have recessive genes, and some are called incomplete dominant. Now you might say, what does recessive mean? Any ideas what recessive means?
None.
Finn, what do you think?
Does it mean that they're a type of animal that can shed and they can bite?
Well, snakes can do that, but recessive means that it comes from the word to recede. It means to be hidden behind something. So when it's recessive, there's a gene that you can't see, it's hiding behind something. That's why it's called recessive. So the term, if you look up in the dictionary what the word recessive means, you'll find out that it means that you are coming back from something, behind something. Whereas an incomplete dominant means that if you breed with a particular snake, there's a 50-50 chance that their gene will be in the offspring, and you'll see it with only one parent carrying it. So if I got like a banana boy, you remember my lovely banana? So if I show you Apollo, here's Apollo. He's my very first snake. I've had him for nearly 7 years, and he is an absolute superstar. He's never ever hurt anybody, never bitten anyone. He's one of my favourite snakes. He's an orange dream pastel banana boy, and all 3 genes are what they call incomplete dominance. And the reason it's called incomplete is because if you put 2 bananas together and you get what they call a super banana, that becomes a complete dominant gene because it's got 2, and it's called a super banana. And what that means is if you have a super banana, if you breed with a super banana, which is really bright snake, even brighter than this boy, all of the babies will have at least 1 copy of the banana in them, guaranteed. Isn't that lovely? So that's called an incomplete dominant. It carries a 50% chance of its banana going to the offspring, 50% chance of the pastel going to the offspring because the pastel is incomplete dominant, and 50% chance that the orange dream in him will go through to the offspring. If he was a super orange dream, where he has 2 copies of the genetics orange dream, all his offspring would be orange dream, because he's carrying 2 parts of the orange dream genetic in him. So he's guaranteed to throw one of those forward. But because he's only carrying 1 banana, 1 pastel, and one orange dream, it's a 50-50 chance that those genes will be passed through to the offspring. And that's why it's called incomplete dominant, okay? So that's... Now let's go back to the recessive. I'll bring out my beautiful boy. He might be in shed, but the DG pied is a recessive gene. Desert ghost and pied are both recessives. And I'll explain what recessives means. So here we've got Tattoo. Now, Tattoo I think is going into shed. Let's have a look and see if he's out of shed yet. And if he's not out of shed, he'll be very dull and he won't be as bright as he normally is. Well, there he is. You can see he's going into shed. Now when they go into shed, they sometimes call them going into blue, because if you look carefully, can you see how blue he looks? He looks like Bluey, doesn't he? Are you going to sing us a Bluey song?
I think
Okay, thank you very much, Finn. So he's in blue, which means he's going to be shedding out soon. He's normally much more brighter, but this is a double recessive. Now what he's carrying is Desert Ghost and he's carrying Pied. Now Desert Ghost is a recessive because what you need to produce a Desert Ghost, the mother must be carrying at least 1 copy of the Desert Ghost gene and the father must be carrying 1 copy of the Desert Ghost gene, which is often called a het Desert Ghost. So if you've got a recessive gene with 1 copy, you don't actually see the Desert Ghost. It looks like a normal snake. The Desert Ghost genetic is hiding behind the normal looking snake. And I can show you an example of this by bringing out Koji. Now if I bring out Koji, she has got 1 copy of the Desert Ghost, but can you see the Desert Ghost in her? I can't see the Desert Ghost in her. Can you see her? Finn, can you see the Desert Ghost? All I can see is a leopard. Now the leopard is called a dominant gene. It's not an incomplete dominant, it's a dominant gene. And the dominant gene is very similar to an incomplete dominant, but it means that the genetic itself still has a 50% chance of going through to the offspring, but it's very dominant. It means that it will dominate any other looking gene. So for example, if you had a normal looking gene, a wild snake, the leopard would dominate the wild genetic and you'd see the leopard, and there's a 50% chance that that will go into my project. So if I want a Desert Ghost leopard pied, she's going to give me a chance of doing that because she's carrying the leopard. And I've put these 2 snakes have been paired and she's now building big follicles and now she's starting to nest up. So that's the difference between a recessive and an incomplete dominant and a dominant. And once you get a double recessive like this one here, he's carrying 2 copies of the Desert Ghost, which means you can see that he's now carrying the Desert Ghost. It's stronger than the normal looking gene, and he's carrying 2 copies of the Pied. And the Pied is also recessive, but he's carrying effectively 2 copies of Pied and 2 copies of DG. Okay? And he's going to be the father going forwards. If we produce a Desert Ghost Pied girl and we breed these 2 together, guess what's going to happen to the babies? Do you know what's going to happen?
They're going to be at least a Desert Ghost.
100% Desert Ghost, guaranteed, because the father carries 2 copies, he'll pass 1. The female's carrying 2 copies, so she'll pass 1. So when you put 2 hets together and they hit, you get a visual expression, and recessive doesn't become recessive anymore. Well, it is recessive, but you see the recessive. It's no longer hiding behind the wild gene. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if she's carrying Pied and he's carrying Pied, will there be a visual Pied in the mix?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's got 2 copies of Pied, she's got 2 copies of Pied. Put them together, bang, you get a guaranteed Pied. So these are powerful animals because they guarantee that the pied and DG will go forward onto the next generation, if that makes sense. Will we get leopard though? That's the question. If my girl was a DG pied leopard, would all the babies have leopard?
Not guaranteed.
How many will get leopard?
Half.
Half, very good. If I had a super leopard, because you can get super leopards, where you've got a female carrying two leopards in her, then everything would be leopard as well. So that's the power of supers. The power of recessive means it guarantees. Takes longer to get there, but once you're there, it guarantees everything. Finn, you've got a question. What's your question?
Cody, isn't it? And if you write it Cody, and next to it is Commander, that's spelled Commander Cody in Star Wars from a clone.
Nice, I didn't realise that. Thank you, Finn. So, I think what we'll do is we will now lift the girl, and I'll introduce the girl to you. This is a self-produced animal we produced 4 years ago. She's got fire, Enchi. She hasn't got the pastel because the boy's got the pastel, but she's carrying one copy of the Desert Ghost in her, so you won't see the Desert Ghost, but she's carrying it. But I'm putting a boy to her that's got 2 copies of the Desert Ghost. So if I put a boy that's 2 copies of Desert Ghost to a girl that's got 1 copy, what are my chances of hitting a Desert Ghost, do you think?
Quite high. More than halfway.
50% actually.
Okay.
50-50, isn't it? Because if you think about it, the boy's going to pass through 1 and the girl might pass hers through. 50-50 chance of 1 coming across. That means there's a 50% chance of getting a visual. Finn, you've got a question.
Do their babies then have that?
So the babies that will come could have a Desert Ghost look to them. Not all of them will be Desert Ghost. Half of them will look like they're wild and half will be Desert Ghost. Now this is the girl here, Ember. She's a very, very beautiful girl and she's on a big tower of eggs. And I don't think you've seen a girl on a tower of eggs before, have you?
No.
So let's bring her out and just show you what we've got here. She was due on the 21st of May and she's 10 days late. But I don't think she is 10 days late because I put the temperatures down to 83, 84 purposely because we've got hot weather in the UK, and what I didn't want to do is give her a temperature spike. I wanted to slowly incubate her eggs. Now the eggs have been incubating in the female for 4, 5 or even 6 weeks actually. In this case it will be 5.5 to 6 weeks. They'll go in my incubator for another 8 weeks. Now because she's spent 5 or 6 weeks incubating, they may come out early in my incubator because she's done a lot of the incubation herself. So it means that instead of me waiting 60 days, they might be ready in 55 days because she's decided to incubate herself a bit longer. And that's why you get variation on your incubation dates, because it all depends on temperatures and the animal's preferences. She wants to hold on to them for longer. Finn, you have a question?
Is your favourite snake the Stormtrooper one or another one that's
The Stormtrooper that you named, Finn, is a beautiful snake. It's a vanilla spot nose. And now you've mentioned it, I'll bring her out later. But let's just lift this. Now, how do we lift her safely, do you think?
with
Well, I use tissue. She's not attacking me, she's chilled. But when I go to pick her up, she'll probably hiss and she could bite me. But I'm going to try and avoid being bitten because most snakes don't bite you. But occasionally, I've never been bitten by a snake. This might be the first time, but don't worry if I do. It won't hurt too much, okay? Finn.
Well, you could put a glove on, then that way.
Some people use gloves and some people use these little... this is quite a good device as well, where you can actually use one of these. And that can also help to control the snake. So we'll keep that standing by just in case. Now, I don't think she will. I think she'll be good. So let me just see what she does. I'll try to lift her. Daddy can zoom in. Now, let's see whether she'll turn on me. She may or may not, but she's pretty chilled, which is good. Now, I lift her tail at the back. So if you look carefully, she's got her tail around the back, and that helps her to hold the clutch together. So we just take the tail. She's very, very possessed mother here. She doesn't want to give these up easily. But if I just lift her carefully like this, isn't that good? And then what I do, she's not biting me, but I will check her to make sure that she's empty. And if I look inside, she's hollowed out, so she is empty. And now I'll give her a bath. So well done. This is a first time mama. And Finn's going to give you a clap. Well done, Finn. We give her a bath. And do you know why we bathe our animals? Why do you think we bathe the females, guys? Daddy can have a little look. Why do we bathe them, do you think? To refresh them, because they're carrying egg residue on them. And she's got an 87-degree bath and she's 83 degrees herself. So she'll enjoy that. And we'll leave her to bathe. We don't put any soap in there. Why don't we put soap in there? Well, she'll probably drink the water, and I don't want her to drink soap. Now, some people put soap in there. They don't realise that the snake is hydrating. It's not good practice to put soap in, and I'd avoid it. And the idea would be to give her a nice warm bath and just let her drink the water, let her stay in there for 10-15 minutes. We'll wipe her down, and it takes the egg residue off her so that she'll go back on feeding a lot quicker. If she can smell egg on her, she'll think she's still nesting and she may not go back on food. So this is a process that helps her go back on food a lot quicker. And what I'll do is I'll put a weight on the top so she doesn't come out. And now the next stage is to check the eggs, and I have actually got an egg box prepared. So the key to good snake keeping is to be prepared. I've got 3 boxes in there that are ready to go, and they've got the right humidity, the right setup, nice and clean. Now, how many eggs have we got? So Finn, you've got a question.
Are you going to open them today, or are you going to let them rest in the egg and do it tomorrow?
So, do you think these babies will be ready now? That's the question. Now, if you,
No,
how long?
incubated enough.
They've not been incubated enough. The mother's incubated them for nearly 6 weeks, and most of these snakes, they need 4 weeks with the mother normally, and they need 8 weeks with us in the incubator. So they need 12 weeks to incubate. So she's had about 6. She's halfway there. If we were to open these now, guess what would happen?
It'll be all yolky, not ready.
Exactly, you'll get goo, and there'll be a little baby embryo in there that will die if you open it up now, and it won't grow. So you have to leave them as they are. You carefully put them into your incubating box, and then you let them dimple. And I'll show you an example of some dimpling eggs, but let's just first of all see whether or not we have got any veins and any embryos in here, see if they are viable eggs. Let's count them first. How many do you think we have?
I reckon about 7, 8.
I can see 3 at the top, and I can see 4 at the bottom. She's given us a clutch of 7, and there's no slugs. And that's a first time mother. So can you see that now we're bringing the temperatures down, our slug rate has dropped dramatically from last year. We had lots of slugs last year because we were too high on the temps. By dropping the temp down, you're getting a viable clutch. Let's see if there's veins. And how do we check for veins, do you think? What's the pressure? We use a torch. Now, I've got a torch over here. I'll just make sure it's working. And Linnea, I'm going to ask you to switch off the light and shut the door. And Daddy, I want you to zoom in and see if you can see the embryos and the veins on the snakes. And Finn, I want you to have a look. So I'll come a bit closer to you. Now, what we do is, we use the torch to actually see what's going on. Now, if you look carefully, have we got veins?
I think so.
Tell me if you see any veins.
I see red.
Do you see red? Can you see any veins, Daddy?
Yep.
I can see some veins on this side. Look, can you see them?
Yeah.
So that one's got veins. Has that one got veins?
Yeah.
Can you see the embryo though? That's the thing. Can you check for a little bubble of air? There's an air bubble. It's like a little pocket. And inside that pocket there's a little black dot that's connected to those veins, and that's the embryo, which is the beginning of a snake that started to grow in the mother's incubation process. Let's check this one down here and see if this one's got one. Have they got veins, Linnea?
Yeah.
Has that one got veins?
Yeah.
Can you see veins in that one?
Yeah.
I can see veins. Let's check the one back over here.
Yeah.
Yep, and that one.
Yeah.
That one is the embryo. Can you see the black dot here? There's the embryo, Daddy. And the veins are coming off that embryo. Can you see?
Doll.
If I come in this way, you might see it better. But there, if I come in that way, actually, there it is. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Can Finn see it? Linnea, can you actually help Finn see that little embryo? There's a little black dot there. That's the beginning of a snake. And you see the veins coming off it?
Yeah.
My finger's pointing to it there. That's where the baby is. So the mother has orientated these eggs using her coils, and she knows where she wants her babies to be placed, up the top of the egg. Do you know why she puts the embryo at the top?
So you can like get more out.
Because the air pocket is going to float to the top, and there has to be oxygen circulating these eggs for them to stay alive, because they still have to breathe. These are breathable eggs, and she has orientated them perfectly. Now you might think, oh, it's not right at the very center, it's going to die. But no, it won't. It's right on the side here, and I've had snakes that have given me embryos on the side who've gone full term, no problem at all. So they don't have to be smack on the top, they can be on the side at an angle. And if you're not comfortable with it, and maybe the female has rolled out an egg and you're not sure of the orientation, then that's when candling, this is called candling, is very important, because then you can make sure the embryo's at the top and it's got a good chance of surviving then. Do you get my drift? So Daddy, we have 7 viable eggs. There's that one there, has veins as well. We've got 7 viable eggs. Linnea, if you'd like to put the lights back on. I'm now going to show you how I would set up the box now. So this is becoming a snake school, isn't it? I love it when my grandchildren come, because I go into teacher mode. I hope everyone's enjoying this. If there's families with children or people coming into the hobby, what is very common for most breeders who do this day in, day out, or at least every few weeks, it's new for most people. So if I am basically being very explanatory, it's because I'm trying to help the next generation of new people coming in. And I hope, does that make sense, Linnea?
Yeah.
So let's get the box out now, and then let's lift these eggs, and I'm going to try to do it in such a way that I don't separate them. I want them to stay as they lay. We spoke about it in the last video. Why did we let them stay as they lay? Finn?
So, because they don't want it to get all smudged up, and the baby might get squeezed and it might like hurt the baby.
Well, if you separate the eggs, you could end up breaking the egg, and then the goo will come out and you could lose the baby. So most people are very careful, they separate them fine, but occasionally you can break the egg. You can repair it with some tape and they still can go long term, but the least you mess with them, the more success you'll have. So the key is not to mess too much with them. So I'm going to go and get my egg box that I've prepared. Now I've got actually, is that quite a tall clutch, Daddy? I've got a special box here. I'll bring out the Ultramel Clown clutch because it can give you an update on that in a second. But I've got, because it's quite tall, if I put it in that box it will hit the lid and the water will saturate the eggs and it won't help them. So for a tall clutch like this, I've got a very tall box. If I bring that out, can you see this toolbox? This is designed for tool clutches, and it means we don't have to separate. Whereas if I have a shallow box, then I may have to separate. Now there's not enough condensation in there. There should be more condensation, there's a little bit. So what I'm going to do in there is I'm going to pour a little bit of water in here just to give it extra hydration. And I have a sprayer. So what I'll do is I'll pump the sprayer. I'm not going to make the egg crate wet, I'm going to just get the vermiculite wet. So I'm spraying down the sides, you see that? Down the sides. And what that'll do is, this is warm water, this is about 84 degrees anyway. You wouldn't put cold water in here, but what you would do is you would use warm water, and what that will do is it will just give extra hydration. And they need to be 100% hydrated. 100% humidity needs to be in here. So let's get plenty of water in, like that. This big box has been in there for 3 or 4 weeks, and therefore it can dry out a little bit. So what I've done is I've topped up the hydration, and what I'll do now is I'll take a little bit of paper and I'll just dry this surface, because I'm going to be putting the eggs on here. I don't want them to be sitting in water, so that's nice and dry now. See, I've taken that water off, and then I check underneath to see what the water levels are. Now if you look carefully, can you see that the vermiculite is nice and wet, but the eggs won't get too wet because they're sitting on top of the egg crate, so they get the benefit of the humidity without getting too saturated. Then we lift the egg clutch very carefully, like this, and look at that, perfect, absolutely perfect. Now if I put the lid on that now, I haven't got to separate the eggs, have I? And look how much clearance there is. There's about an inch clearance, which means that we're not going to have water dripping on the eggs, which can make them go mouldy. If they go mouldy, they die. So we don't want too much water on the eggs. So this is clutch number 11. Now you can see I put clutch number 3 in here. So it's quite a while ago which I used this, and I recycled everything and cleaned everything. What I'm going to do is, if you can pass me a pen in there, we're going to change the number to 11, so we know that this is clutch 11. So this is our identification way of identifying what we've got. So that's clutch 11, or was it clutch 12? So it's clutch 12, sorry. So it should be clutch 12. I'll do that again. 12. Let's get rid of that. So we're on clutch 12, and we think this is our, another 7 eggs would give us nearly 100 eggs we've had this season. Off that, an average of 7 eggs a clutch is what we're averaging, with only 3 slugs, which is pretty good going. So we'll put those in now, and then we'll finish up with an update on the ultra male clutch, which will come out. And put these back in here. And what I'll do is I'll make up a clutch card. Why do we make up a clutch card, do you think?
To keep track.
Keep track of the data. So over here, Jazz been making up the clutch cards. And now I'm going to get you to make up the clutch card today. So we need some paper. There's an example of what we do. Clutch 11 was Galileo to Curiosity. We identify the genetics in each, the father and the mother. So you show the genetics in there. You write down the date that they were laid, how many eggs you got, how many were good and how many were slugs, and then the due date, so we know when they're going to pip. And the due date is normally 60 days after they've laid. So I want you to copy that format, Linnea. Have a go at making a clutch card using that format. And while you do that, if you do it on the other table, Linnea, I'm going to give everyone an update on the ultra male clown clutch that have come out the eggs. There's 2 that haven't yet. Finn, you got a question?
How do you lift it up and you make it not all broken?
How do I lift the clutch without breaking them? Did you see how carefully I went in with my hands, very gently? I lifted because she'd only just laid them. Normally they're stuck to the bottom of the tub. But those eggs were literally a couple of hours laid. That's all they were. But she glued them together, which meant they didn't spoil everywhere, because the female has this ability to produce eggs. When they come out of her, they're covered in some glue, the gluey substance, so that when the eggs stick together, they stay together. It's Mother Nature's way of protecting the clutch, and then she can coil around them. Otherwise, the eggs would go everywhere and spoil. So Mother Nature creates her own glue. Do you get that, Finn? Does that make sense? Now look at this beautiful clutch that we've hit this week. There's the ultra male clown. Would you like to have a look at that out of its egg? Okay, let's bring it out of its egg. So this is the #1 snake of this season so far. I'm just going to bring them out. Now, if I can, it looks as though what I do, I put water in there, Now these are the babies here that are still in their eggs, and we don't want to disturb those. We'll move them over to that